Commander Junho Kim stood at the big window of his spaceship, looking at the strange alien ship floating in the darkness of space. The alien ship was huge, much bigger than any human ship he had ever seen. It looked like a giant crystal floating in the black void with lights dancing inside it like trapped lightning. The ship had been sitting there for 3 hours now, just waiting. Ho felt sweat on his forehead. Even though the bridge was cool, he had trained for this moment his whole life. First contact with aliens from another world, but nothing in his training had prepared him for how scared he actually felt right now. His hands shook a little as he adjusted his plasma rifle on his belt. Lieutenant So Young Park walked up beside him. Her combat armor made soft clicking sounds as she moved. She was checking her energy shield generator for the 5th time in 10 minutes. Junho could see she was nervous too. Everyone on the bridge was nervous. The 12 crew members all wore full battle gear with weapons ready. 3 years ago, human scientists had picked up strange signals from the edge of their solar system. The signals were clearly from intelligent beings, not from Earth. The messages were peaceful. They spoke of friendship and trade and learning about each other. The aliens called themselves Veltharians, and they wanted to meet humans face to face. At first, everyone on Earth was excited. Finally, humans were not alone in the universe. There were other thinking beings out there who wanted to be friends. The government spent months preparing for this meeting. They chose their best diplomats, their smartest scientists, and their strongest military officers. But as the meeting day got closer, something started bothering the human leaders. The Veltharian messages were almost too peaceful. They talked about harmony and understanding and peaceful cooperation. They never mentioned weapons or defense or protection. It was like they had never thought about danger at all. Human leaders started wondering if these aliens were trying to trick them. Maybe they were pretending to be peaceful so they could attack when humans were not ready. Earth had seen this trick before in their own history. Many wars started with false promises of peace, so the human government decided to be careful. They would meet the aliens, but they would be ready for anything. The spaceship Unity carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Every crew member was a trained soldier. Every person on the ship could fight if they needed to. Now, as Junho stared at the alien ship, he wondered if they had made the right choice. The Veltharian ship showed no weapons at all. It looked beautiful and peaceful, like a work of art floating in space. Maybe these aliens really were as friendly as they claimed to be. Bright light flashed on the bridge, and suddenly there was an alien standing right there. Junho jumped and his hand went to his weapon, but he did not draw it. The alien was tall and thin with skin that looked like clear crystal. Light seemed to move under its skin like water. The alien had big eyes that reflected the bridge lights. The alien looked around the bridge, and Junho saw its expression change. The big eyes got even bigger as the alien saw all the weapons and armor. The 12 human crew members all had plasma rifles, energy shields, and combat gear. The walls had weapon racks and ammunition storage. The whole bridge looked like a war room. Ambassador Riksho spoke through a small device on its chest. The voice sounded worried and confused. Commander Kim, I am Ambassador Riksho of the Veltharian High Council. We come in peace, as we have said many times, but I must ask you something that troubles my people greatly. Ho tried to look friendly, but it was hard when he was wearing battle armor. Please ask your question, Ambassador. We want to answer all your concerns. Why are your people so heavily on? Riksho asked. Its voice was shaking now. We have studied your ships and your people for weeks now. Every human we see carries weapons. Even your civilian ships have enough firepower to destroy our cities. Your children learn to fight in their schools. Every human settlement is like a military base. Are you planning to attack our worlds? The question hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Junho looked at So Young Park and saw his own thoughts reflected in her eyes. How could they explain to peaceful aliens that humans were not naturally peaceful? How could they make these crystal beings understand that humans had learned to be ready for war because they had faced so much danger? The other crew members shifted nervously in their armor. Everyone knew this question would come eventually. The Veltharians had been sending confused messages for weeks, asking why humans seemed so focused on fighting and weapons. The aliens came from a part of space where different species got along peacefully. They had never seen anything like humanity. Ambassador Ho said carefully, perhaps it would be better if we showed you instead of just telling you. Would you be willing to come to our home planet? Earth and see our history for yourself. You can learn why we are the way we are. Rixchel was quiet for a long moment. Its crystal skin flashed with different colors, which Junho guessed meant it was thinking hard or maybe talking to other aliens on its ship. The big eyes never stopped looking at all the weapons around the bridge. The aliens seemed especially bothered by young Private Dongwu Li, who was only 19 years old. The private carried 2 plasma pistols, a combat knife, and a grenade launcher. Even though he looked like he should still be in school, he moved like a trained killer. The alien could not understand how someone so young could be so dangerous. Very well, Rixchel finally said, but we will bring more security ships with us just in case. Our people are very worried about meeting your kind. We have never encountered a species that seemed so ready for violence. As the alien disappeared in another flash of light, Junho felt a heavy weight on his shoulders. How could he explain to beings who had never known real danger that humans were not violent by choice? They were violent because they had to be. The universe had taught humans that peaceful intentions meant nothing if you could not defend yourself. So young Park walked over to him. Sir, how do we make them understand that we carry weapons not because we want to hurt others, but because we want to protect what we love? Junho looked out at the alien ship again. It was so beautiful and peaceful, just like its people. But he knew that beauty and peace only lasted when someone was strong enough to guard them. Humans had learned that lesson the hard way over millions of years of struggle. We show them our scars, he said quietly. We show them what happens to peaceful people when they meet things that are not peaceful. We show them why the sheep need wolves to protect them from the real monsters. The Unity began moving toward Earth with the alien ship following at a safe distance. Junho knew the next few days would change everything. Either the aliens would understand why humans were the way they were, or they would decide that humans were too dangerous to live with. As he watched Earth grow larger in the viewscreen, Junho hoped that these crystal beings would be wise enough to see the truth. Humans were not the monsters in this galaxy. They were the ones who fought the monsters so others could sleep peacefully at night. Dr. Minjun Li walked slowly through the Museum of Human Survival, with Ambassador Rixchel floating beside him. The alien moved without making any sound, which made the doctor feel strange. The museum was built deep underground in what used to be a military bunker. The thick walls were covered with displays showing millions of years of human struggle. This is where we begin, Ambassador Dr. Li said as they stopped in front of a huge display. The holographic scene showed early humans living in caves surrounded by darkness. Outside the caves, giant animals with long teeth waited to eat them. Bears as big as cars prowled. The night wolves with glowing eyes hunted in packs of 50 or more. Rixchel stared at the display with his big crystal eyes wide. For how long did your people live like this? He asked. Millions of years, Dr. Li replied. 6 million years of being hunted every single day. Early humans were not strong or fast. We could not fly or swim well or climb trees quickly. We were easy prey for everything that wanted to eat meat. The alien watched as the hologram showed human families huddled around small fires. They held pointed sticks and rocks as weapons. Children cried when they heard roars in the darkness outside. Women and men took turns staying awake to watch for danger. No one ever felt completely safe, but surely when you learn to make better tools, the danger ended, Rixchel said. Hopefully. Darli shook his head and led the alien to the next section. This area showed humans from 10,000 years ago. They had better weapons now, spears and bows and knives made of metal. But the displays showed new dangers, armies of humans fighting each other, cities burning, families running from soldiers who wanted to kill them. Your own species became the greatest threat, Rixchel whispered in shock. Yes, the doctor said sadly. When we solved the problem of wild animals, we created a new problem ourselves. Humans learned that other humans could be more dangerous than any beast. We learned that trusting the wrong people could get your whole family killed. They moved deeper into the museum. Each section showed a different time in human history. The aliens saw displays about the Black Death that killed half of Europe, ice ages that lasted thousands of years, volcanoes that blocked out the sun for years, earthquakes that swallowed entire cities every few hundred years. Something tried to wipe out humanity, Darli explained as they walked. Natural disasters, diseases, wars, famines. We survived because we never stopped preparing for the next terrible thing. Captain Haijin Choi joined them at the World War section. She was young, but her eyes looked old, like she had seen too much fighting. The captain wore her usual combat gear even here in the museum. Her plasma rifle hung at her side, and her armor showed scratches from Rio Battle's ambassador. "This is our most important lesson," Captain Choi said, pointing to displays showing the Second World War less than 100 years ago. Humans did terrible things to each other. 6 million people died just because they were different. Entire cities were destroyed by single bombs. Children were taken from their families and never seen again. Rixjol read the information displays, and his crystal skin started changing colors rapidly. The alien had to sit down on a bench as he learned about concentration camps, gas chambers, and atomic weapons. This level of cruelty was impossible for his peaceful mind to understand. "Your species nearly destroyed itself," he said in a voice so quiet they could barely hear him. "Yes," Captain Choi agreed, "but that war taught us the most important lesson of all. Evil exists in the universe, and it will not stop itself. Good people must be strong enough to fight evil, or everyone suffers. We learned that peace only exists when good people are ready for war." They continued through the museum, showing the alien about the Cold War, when humans built enough nuclear weapons to destroy their planet 10 times over. The displays explained how humans lived for 50 years, knowing that any day might be their last. Everyone had to be ready to fight or die. Dr. Lee stopped at a section showing natural disasters, hurricanes that destroyed entire coastlines, tsunamis that wiped out hundreds of thousands of people, earthquakes that split the ground open, volcanic eruptions that buried cities under ash. Even when we were not fighting each other, the planet itself tried to kill us, Dr. Lee said. Every human child grows up knowing that disaster can strike without warning. We build our cities to survive earthquakes. We plan for floods and storms and fires. We are always ready because we have to. Beatty alien looked at pictures of human rescue workers running into burning buildings to save strangers, soldiers carrying children to safety through war zones, doctors working without sleep to help people during plagues, scientists risking their lives to find cures for deadly diseases. "I do not understand," Rixjol said. "Your history is full of death and suffering and fear, yet in every disaster I see humans helping each other. Why do you not just run away and save yourselves? Because that is not who we are," Captain Choi answered. "We learned long ago that we survive together or we die alone. When one human is in danger, all humans are in danger. When one family suffers, we all suffer." Dr. Lee nodded and pointed to the final display. It showed modern humans living in cities that looked peaceful and safe, but even in these scenes, the alien could see that every person carried weapons, every building had defensive measures. Every school taught children how to protect themselves. "We look paranoid to you because we remember everything that happened before." Rixjol, Dr. Lee explained, "We remember the caves and the wars and the plagues and the disasters. We remember that safety is not permanent. It is something you have to fight for every day." The alien stood up slowly, his movements shaky as he processed everything he had learned. "Your weapons are not for attacking others. They are for protecting yourselves and each other now. You begin to understand human nature," Captain Choi said. "We are not violent because we enjoy it. We are violent because we must be." The universe taught us that the only way to keep good things safe is to be stronger than the bad things. As they walked toward the exit, Rixjol looked back at all the displays showing millions of years of human struggle. He was beginning to understand why humans seemed so ready for battle. They had been fighting for survival since the beginning of time. "Ambassador," Dr. Lee said as they reached the door, "there is something else you should know. In all those millions of years of danger, humans never stopped helping each other. We never stopped protecting the weak. We never stopped believing that tomorrow could be better than today. That is why we fight, not because we hate our enemies, but because we love what we are protecting." Rixjol nodded slowly, the colors under his crystal skin moving like calm water. "I think I'm starting to understand your people, Commander Kim, but I need to see more. I need to understand how you turn children into warriors while keeping them innocent tomorrow. We will show you our defenders." Dr. Lee promised. "Tonight rest and think about what you have learned. The real story of humanity is just beginning." Sergeant Tae Woo-young could not believe he was showing aliens how humans trained for war, but here he was standing in the middle of the biggest military training ground on Earth. Ambassador Rixjol and 3 other Veltharian observers floated nearby, Watching as human soldiers did things that would kill most other species, the training ground stretched for miles in every direction. It had mountains to climb, rivers to cross, buildings to fight in, and obstacle courses that looked like death traps. Explosions echoed across the landscape as soldiers practiced with real weapons. The sound made the aliens jump every few seconds. "This is our basic training program," Sergeant Jung explained as a group of new recruits ran past carrying heavy packs and weapons. "Every human who wants to serve in our defense forces must complete this training. Many civilians take similar training just in case they need to protect their familiar ritual." Watched in amazement as soldiers climbed up walls that were 50 feet high using only ropes and their hands. Other soldiers crawled under nets while machine guns fired real bullets just inches above their heads. The aliens could not understand how humans survived this kind of training. A young woman ran up to them and stopped. She was breathing hard but not gasping for air like the aliens expected. Private Yunji Nam was only 22 years old, but she moved like a professional killer. Her combat gear was covered in mud and her face had scratches from the obstacle course. Private Nam, show our guests how quickly you can service your weapon, Sergeant Jung ordered. The young woman smiled and pulled out her plasma rifle. She closed her eyes and began taking the weapon apart. Her hands moved so fast they were almost a blur. In less than 30 seconds, she had completely disassembled the rifle, cleaned every part, and put it back together again. Rixjil made a sound like breaking glass, which meant he was shocked in his language. "This level of skill requires years of practice," he said. "How long has she been training?" "Since I was 5 years old," Private Nam answered cheerfully. "My parents started teaching me basic self-defense when I could walk. I learned to shoot when I was 8. I joined the youth military program when I was 12. By the time I was 18, I could fight as well as most adults." The alien delegation looked at each other with worry. Young Veltharians spent their time learning art and music and philosophy. They never touched weapons until they were fully grown adults. Even then, most never learned to fight at all. Colonel Sang Woo Yoon walked up to the group. He was an older man with gray hair and scars on his face that told stories of many battles. His presence made even the confident soldiers stand a little straighter. "Has your species ever faced an invasion, Ambassador?" the colonel asked. "Never," Rixjil replied. "Our sector of space is protected by the Galactic Council. Conflicts are solved through talking and compromise. We have not fought a war in over 1,000 years." Colonel Yoon nodded, but his expression was grim. "We had no Galactic Council ambassador. For most of our history, we had nobody to protect us except ourselves. We learned that if you want peace, you must be prepared for war. If you want to protect innocent people, you must be stronger than those who want to hurt them." The training demonstration continued. The aliens watched human soldiers practice urban warfare. They moved through fake city streets, clearing buildings room by room. They rescued hostages from terrorists. They stopped armed criminals from hurting civilians. Every movement was smooth and deadly. "Your soldiers move like predators," observed Sub-Commander Velter, one of Rixjil's assistants. There was fear in his voice because that is what we are, Private Nam said, overhearing the comment. "Every human carries the memory of millions of years of hunting and being hunted. We can choose to be peaceful and kind, but when something threatens what we love, we become what we need to." Beatty aliens watched as soldiers practiced hand-to-hand combat. Humans fought with a combination of technique and savage fury that was both beautiful and terrifying. They used every part of their bodies as weapons. They fought until their opponents could not get up again. A group of soldiers demonstrated team tactics. They moved together like parts of a machine. Each person knew exactly what the others would do. They communicated with hand signals and covered each other's backs. They would die before they let their teammates get hurt. This is why we win wars that should be impossible to win. Sergeant Jung explained humans fight not just for themselves, but for each other. A human soldier will charge into certain death to save a friend. We fight harder when we are protecting others than when we are protecting ourselves. Colonel Yoon led them to an observation deck overlooking the main training area. Hundreds of soldiers were practicing different skills. Some were learning to pilot aircraft, others were studying explosives and engineering. Still others were practicing medical skills to save wounded teammates. "Every human in our military learns how to kill and how to heal," Colonel Yoon said. "We train our soldiers to destroy enemies and to save lives, We want them to be warriors when they must fight and healers when the fighting is Rixjal watched a soldier bandaging another soldier's wound with the same skill he had used to take apart. His weapon moments before the combination of deadly violence and gentle care confused the peaceful alieni. Do not understand how you can be both things at once, he said. Colonel Yoon smiled sadly. It is the human way, Ambassador. We are capable of great destruction and great creation sometimes at the same time. A human mother will sing lullabies to her baby at night and kill anyone who tries to hurt that baby during the day. The demonstration moved to a live fire exercise. Soldiers attacked a mock enemy base using real weapons and explosives. The sound was deafening and smoke filled the air. The aliens watched in terror as humans ran through gunfire and explosions to complete their mission. When the exercise ended, the soldiers gathered around their instructors to discuss what they had learned. They talked about better ways to protect civilians and how to minimize damage to buildings. They argued about tactics that would save more lives on both sides. These are not mindless killers, Private Nam said to the aliens as they walked back to their transport. These are protectors. Every person you see here joined the military to defend others, not to conquer other. World Sergeant Young nodded. The weapons we carry and the skills we learn are not for attacking innocent people. They are for stopping those who would attack innocent people. We trained so hard because we know that when evil comes calling, we must be ready. As they flew back to the city, Rixjal looked down at the training ground, where hundreds of humans continued practicing their deadly skills. The alien was beginning to understand that human warriors were not created by hate or anger. They were created by love for their families, love for their friends, love for strangers who could not protect themselves. The fierceness that made humans such dangerous fighters came from the same place as their willingness to sacrifice everything for others. Tomorrow, Colonel Yoon said, we will show you who we are really fighting for. We will show you the people all these warriors have sworn to protect. Then you will understand why we must be so strong. Teacher Yu Jinha smiled as she watched Ambassador Rixjal try to squeeze his tall alien body into a chair made for 8-year-old humans. The Veltharian had come to observe her third-grade class, expecting to see young warriors being trained for battle. Instead, he found something that confused him more than anything he had seen so far. Children, can you show our visitor the pictures you drew yesterday? Miss Ha asked gently. 20 small hands shot up into the air and excited voices filled the classroom. Dongwoo Kim held up his drawing of his family having a picnic in the Park Su-bin. Lee showed off her painting of butterflies and flowers sitting on a rainbow. Young Mirei Park had drawn her pet dog playing in their backyard. The classroom walls were covered with artwork showing happy families, peaceful scenes, and dreams of the future. I do not understand, Rixjal whispered to the teacher. These children seem so innocent, so gentle, nothing like the warriors I have observed. Why do they not carry weapons? Why are they not learning to fight? Ms. Ha looked at the alien with patient eyes. This is exactly why we have warriors, Ambassador. This innocence, this joy, this hope for tomorrow, this is what every human soldier has sworn to protect. The children were curious about their strange visitor, but not afraid. 8-year-old Jun Sik-oh raised his hand. Miss Ha, can the crystal man see colors like we do? His skin looks like it has rainbows inside. Yes, he can see colors, Junsik. The Chur replied, and much more than we can. The ambassador comes from very far away, where there are many different kinds of people. During recess, Rixjal followed the children outside to the playground. He expected to see them playing war games and pretending to shoot each other. Instead, he saw something beautiful. Children played on swings and slides. They drew pictures with chalk. They shared their snacks with friends who had forgotten to bring lunch. Some children did play games that might seem violent to other species. They played soldiers and space marines and monster hunters. But Rixjal began to notice something important about their games. The children always made themselves the heroes who saved others. They never pretended to hurt innocent people. They always cast themselves as protectors. 7-year-old Min Ho-young ran up to the alien without any fear at all. Are you really from space? He asked with eyes full of wonder. Yes, little one, Rixjal replied, kneeling down to the boy's level. That's amazing. Do you have kids on your planet? We do, young Min Ho. The boy's face became serious in a way that seemed too old for his age. If something bad tried to hurt your kids, would you stop it? The question hit Rixjal like a physical Blow, of course, I would do anything to protect them. That's why our grown-ups have weapons, Minho said like he was explaining something obvious. Not to hurt good people, but to stop bad things from hurting kids like us. My dad says the strongest people use their strength to protect those who can't protect themselves. Rickshaw looked around the playground with new eyes. The school crossing guard who helped children cross the street safely carried a plasma pistol. The bus driver who brought children to school each morning had defensive armor under his jacket. Even the janitor who cleaned the hallways wore a utility belt with emergency weapons. They are all guardians, the alien realized aloud. Every adult human is a potential protector, Miss Ha confirmed. As she joined them on the playground, we learned long ago that evil can strike anywhere at any time, so we make sure that wherever our children go, there's always someone ready to defend them. A group of older children from the 5th grade walked past on their way to class. Rickshaw noticed that these 11-year-olds moved differently than the younger ones. They still laughed and played, but there was something more serious about them. They watched their surroundings more carefully. They positioned themselves to protect the smaller children without even thinking about it. At what age do human children begin warrior training? Rickshaw asked. We don't call it warrior training, Ms. Ha said. We call it life skills. Every human child learns basic self-defense as naturally as they learn to read and write. They learn to be aware of danger. They learn to help others in emergencies. They learn that strong people protect weak people. During lunchtime, Rickshaw sat with a group of children and listened to their conversations. They talked about their favorite games, their pets, their dreams for when they grew up. But mixed in with the innocent chatter were conversations that would shock most alien species. I want to be a doctor when I grow up, said 9-year-old Hyejin Kim, so I can help people who get hurt. I want to be a teacher like Miss Ha said. Soo Bin Lee, so I can help kids learn important things. I want to be a soldier, said young Dongwoo Kim, so I can keep bad guys away from good people. The alien noticed that even the children who wanted peaceful jobs understood they might need to fight someday. They talked about protecting others as naturally as they talked about playing games. It was built into their thinking from the very beginning. After lunch, Miss Ha showed Rickshaw the school's emergency procedures. Every classroom had emergency supplies hidden where children could reach them. Every teacher carried equipment to protect their students. Every child knew exactly what to do if dangerous people came to their school. We practice lockdown drills once a month, Miss Ha explained. The children learn to be quiet and hidden until help arrives. They learn to follow instructions that might save their lives. We hope they never need these skills, but we make sure they have them. The alien watched as children practiced moving quietly and quickly to safe places. They treated it like a game, but they took it seriously too. Even the youngest ones understood that sometimes bad people tried to hurt children, and everyone needed to be ready. As the school day ended, Rickshaw watched parents picking up their children. Every adult who came to collect a child was armed in some way. Mothers carried energy weapons in their purses. Fathers wore defensive clothing under their regular shirts. Grandparents had emergency communicators to call for help. The children hugged their parents and chattered happily about their day. They felt completely safe because they knew the adults around them would die before letting anything hurt them. The weapons and armor that frightened the aliens were actually symbols of love and protection. Young Mireille Park ran up to Rickshaw one more time before her mother picked her up. Do you like our school? She asked. Yes, little one, it is a wonderful place full of amazing children. Mireille smiled brightly. Good. I hope you can come back and visit us again. Maybe next time you can meet my mom. She carries a really cool laser pistol and she taught me how to hide if bad people come. As the alien watched Mireille skip away holding her mother's hand, he finally understood what he was seeing. Human weapons were not threats to the innocent. They were promises to the innocent. They were a commitment that no child would ever face danger alone. Ms. Ha walked up beside him as the last children left with their families. Every human adult you see here would give their life to protect these children, she said quietly. Not just their own children, but all children everywhere. That protective instinct is what makes humans seem so dangerous to outsiders. Rickshaw nodded, slowly, understanding flooding through his mind. You are not a species of warriors, you are a species of guardians. Now you begin to see the truth, Miss Ha replied. Come back tomorrow, and you will learn why this protective nature is built into human psychology. You will understand why we cannot help but fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. As they walked toward the school exit, Riksha looked back at the empty playground where children had played and laughed just hours before tomorrow. Those children would return full of joy and innocence, trusting that the adults around them would keep them safe. That trust was not misplaced. Every human adult carried weapons not because they wanted to use them, but because they had promised to use them, if necessary, to keep the children laughing and playing and dreaming of better tomorrows. Dr. Su Jin Kwan sat across from Ambassador Rixjul in her office, surrounded by centuries of research about how human minds worked. The Veltharian had asked for this meeting after spending weeks watching human society he was trying to understand. The contradiction he saw everywhere: humans who could be incredibly violent and incredibly kind sometimes within the same hour. You confuse us greatly, Ambassador Rixjul admitted, leaning forward in his chair. We have watched your people for many days now. We see terrible violence and beautiful kindness, often from the same individuals. We see weapons and art warfare and healing, destruction and creation at the same time. What are humans really? Dr. Kwan activated holographic displays that showed brain scans and research data floating in the air between them. Humans are a contradiction, Ambassador, she said calmly. We evolved as both hunters and prey, both pack animals and individuals, both creators and destroyers. We carry the capacity for great evil and great good in the same heart. She showed him footage from human history that he had not seen before. Soldiers sharing their food with enemy children during wars, warriors crying over the bodies of men they had killed in battle, peaceful protesters standing in front of tanks knowing they might die, scientists working without sleep to cure diseases that killed millions of people. Same brain patterns that make us capable of violence also make us capable of incredible sacrifice for others. Dr. Kwan explained, our aggression is not random or cruel like you might expect. It has a purpose. It is protective. We do not fight because we enjoy hurting others. We fight because we must protect what we love. Rixjil studied video footage of human peacekeepers on different worlds helping alien species solve their problems. He watched medical teams running into disaster zones to help strangers. He saw rescue workers climbing into burning buildings while everyone else was running away. Your people volunteer to face death to help strangers, he said in amazement. Why would they do such dangerous things for people they do not even know? Because we cannot help ourselves, Dr. Kwan replied with a gentle smile. It is written into our DNA code. The same instinct that teaches us to fight also teaches us to protect. We cannot stand by and watch others suffer. It makes us physically sick to see innocent people in danger and do nothing about it. The doctor showed him brain scans of humans watching other people in pain. The scans revealed that humans felt physical discomfort when they saw others hurting, as if the pain was happening to their own bodies. This was not something humans learned, it was something they were born within. Our research, we discovered something interesting about human psychology, Dr. Kwan continued. When humans see someone in danger, their brains automatically start planning how to help even before they consciously decide to act. The protective response happens faster than logical thinking. Rixjul watched recordings of humans in emergency situations. A woman running into traffic to save a child who was not her own. A man jumping into freezing water to rescue a stranger. A group of teenagers fighting off armed criminals to protect an elderly couple they had never met. These people did not stop to think about the danger to themselves. Dr. Kwan pointed out they acted on instinct to protect others. This is not learned behavior, Ambassador. This is human nature. The alien was quiet for several minutes, processing what he was learning. In our observations, we noticed that humans often put themselves in danger to protect other species, even ones they have never encountered before. Why would they do this? Dr. Kwan nodded. Of course they would. Intelligence deserves protection regardless of what form it takes. Innocence deserves defense, whether it is human or alien or something else entirely. We believe that any thinking being has the right to exist safely. She showed him footage of human soldiers fighting to protect alien refugees on distant worlds. Humans had died defending species they had just met simply because those species could not defend themselves. There was no profit in it, no advantage for humanity. They did it because they believed it was right. The doctor pulled up genetic research showing how human protective instincts had evolved over millions of years. Humans who protected their groups survived better than humans who only looked out for themselves. Over time, the protective instinct became stronger and stronger until it was automatic. But there is something else about human nature that makes us different from other species, Dr. Kwan said. We do not just protect our own families or our own tribes. We extend our protective circle to include anyone we see as innocent or vulnerable. This includes other specialists stared at brain scan images showing human neural activity when they saw different types of beings in danger. The human brain responded the same way whether the victim was human, alien, animal, or even artificial intelligence. If it seemed capable of suffering, humans wanted to protect it. You are not armed because you are dangerous to us, Rickshaw said slowly, understanding beginning to dawn in his mind. You are armed because you would die to protect us. Now you are beginning to understand humanity, Dr. Kwan replied. The alien asked to see more research about human behavior in combat situations. Dr. Kwan showed him studies of human soldiers throughout history. The data revealed something remarkable. Humans fought hardest not when they were attacking enemies, but when they were defending others. When humans fight to conquer or gain power, they are good soldiers, the doctor explained, but when humans fight to protect innocent people, they become something beyond normal warriors. They become unstoppable. They will fight against impossible odds and somehow find ways to win. She showed him the story of a single human soldier who held off an entire enemy army for 3 days to protect a village full of civilians. The man had no chance of survival, but he fought anyway, because surrender meant innocent people would do. This pattern repeats throughout human history, Dr. Kwan said. One human or a small group of humans facing overwhelming enemies to protect others. And somehow they often succeed, not because they are stronger or smarter, but because they refuse to give up when lives depend on them. Rickshaw watched more footage of humans in impossible situations. A medical team staying in a plague zone to treat patients when they could have evacuated safely. Firefighters running into collapsing buildings to rescue people they had never met. Parents facing down armed criminals to protect their children. The protective instinct overrides self-preservation, Dr. Kwan explained. When humans see others in danger, their fear for themselves becomes secondary to their need to help. This makes them incredibly dangerous opponents, but only when they are defending something. The alien asked one final question that had been bothering him. If humans are naturally protective, why do you also fight each other? Why do humans sometimes hurt other humans? Dr. Kwan sighed sadly. Because humans are not perfect, Ambassador. Our protective instinct sometimes gets confused. We sometimes see threats where none exist. We sometimes protect our own group by attacking other groups. We sometimes believe lies that make us think innocent people are actually dangerous. But even when humans fight each other, she continued, they usually believe they are protecting something. They believe they are fighting for their families, their homes, their way of life. Human evil usually comes from misguided protection, not from cruelty for its own sake. As the meeting ended, Rickshaw felt like he finally understood what humans really were. They were not monsters waiting to destroy the galaxy. They were guardians who had appointed themselves protectors of everything good and innocent in the universe. Dr. Kwan walked into the door. Remember, Ambassador, humans are not perfect. We make mistakes and sometimes we fight when we should talk, but our heart as a species is protective. We want to make the universe safer for everyone, not more dangerous. Tomorrow, you will see the final truth about humanity, she promised. You will see how we interact with the galaxy now that we have the power to protect not just our own world, but all worlds. The universe is about to become a much safer place. 6 months later, Ambassador Rickshaw stood before the Galactic Council in the most important meeting of his life. The massive chamber held representatives from over 200 different species, all waiting to hear his final report about humanity. The decision made today would determine whether humans were welcomed into galactic society or declared too dangerous to exist. The chamber fell completely silent as Rickshaw activated his speaking platform. His crystal skin glowed with nervous energy. As he looked out at the assembled delegates, many of them had been terrified when they first learned about human military capabilities. Some had even suggested destroying Earth before humans could spread across the galaxy. Honorable Council members, Rickstill began, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast hall. I must completely change our original assessment of the human species. They are not the threat we believe them to be. They are something far more extraordinary and far more valuable. High Counselor Zarthik leaned forward from his throne. The ancient leader had ruled the council for over 300 years and had seen many species rise and fall. Explain, Ambassador. What have you discovered that changes everything? Humans are indeed a warrior species, but not in any way we have encountered before. Rickstill continued. They do not fight for conquest or dominance or resources. They fight for one reason only: protection. For millions of years, they have stood guard against every form of darkness, not just for their own people, but for all life that cannot defend itself. He activated holographic displays showing human peacekeeping forces across the galaxy. In just 6 months since joining Galactic Society, humans had volunteered for every dangerous mission, every rescue operation, every defense against cosmic threats. They asked for nothing in return except the knowledge that others would be safe. The council chamber filled with surprised murmurs as delegates saw the evidence. Species that had never trusted each other were working together under human protection. Worlds that had been at war for centuries were now at peace. Because human soldiers stood between the opposing armies, they are heavily armed because they have learned through bitter experience that the universe is full of predators. Rickstill explained, but humans are not predators themselves. They are shepherds. They have transformed their capacity for violence into a shield that protects the innocent. Admiral Jin Su Kang of the human fleet stepped forward when invited to address the council. He wore simple military dress uniform with no weapons visible, but everyone in the chamber could sense the controlled power in his movements. Honorable council members, Admiral Kang said respectfully, we understand that many of you feared our weapons and our training. We know that our military preparations seem excessive to species that have lived in peace, but we want you to understand something important. He gestured, and holographic displays showed human colonies throughout the galaxy. Every single settlement was designed like a fortress with defensive positions and emergency shelters, but the displays also showed something else human settlements always had: extra space prepared for refugees from other species. Every weapon we carry, every soldier we train, every ship we build has one single purpose. Admiral Kang continued to ensure that no species ever again faces extinction alone. We have seen what happens when good people have no one to protect them. We have sworn that will never happen again while humans exist. Counselor Vex of the Triangulum sector stood up to speak. His people had been among the most opposed to human membership in the council. Admiral Kang, what do you say to those who claim humans are too violent to be trusted with advanced technology? The human admiral was quiet for a moment, considering his words carefully. Counselor Vex, I understand your concerns. Our history is full of violence and war, but I ask you to consider this. In the 6 months since we joined Galactic Society, how many wars have ended? Because human peacekeepers arrived, how many disasters have been resolved? Because human rescue teams were willing to face impossible dangers. The chamber buzzed with conversation as delegates consulted their records. The statistics were undeniable. Pirate attacks had dropped to almost zero because human patrol ships responded to distress calls within minutes. Slavers had stopped operating in human-protected space because they knew human soldiers would hunt them down relentlessly. Natural disasters that would have killed millions were now being handled efficiently because human emergency teams arrived before anyone else. Species that had been afraid to explore dangerous regions of space now did so freely, knowing that human rescue ships were always near. Rickstill continued his presentation. The humans have a saying that explains their nature: the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Humans have never done nothing. They have spent their entire existence learning how to stand between darkness and light. He showed the council records of human behavior during recent crises. When a plague threatened the Epsilon system, human medical teams arrived first and stayed longest. When slavers attacked the Centauri colonies, human marines were there within hours. When a solar flare threatened to destroy the vegan homeworld, human engineers worked for days without sleep to build protective shields. But perhaps most importantly, Rickstill said, humans have shown us something we had forgotten. The price of peace is eternal vigilance. We became so comfortable in our peaceful sector that we Forgot there are still monsters in the galaxy. Humans never forgot. They stayed ready so we could stay safe. High Counselor Zarthik called for order as excited discussions broke out across the chamber. What do you recommend? Ambassador Ixchel looked directly at Admiral Kang, then back at the council. I recommend we stop fearing humanity and start being grateful for them. There are ancient evils stirring in the dark regions of space, threats that our peaceful civilizations have no hope of facing alone, but humans have been preparing for such threats their entire existence. The ambassador activated one final display showing deep space monitoring stations that had detected something troubling. Movement in the void between galaxies. Something vast and hungry heading toward their sector of space. Within 50 years, something terrible will reach our worlds, Rixchel announced. The automated monitoring systems have been tracking it for months. It is larger than anything we have ever encountered, and it appears to consume entire solar systems. The chamber erupted in panic as delegates saw the approaching threat for the first time. Some species immediately began discussing evacuation plans. Others talked about surrender or hiding. The only voices calling for resistance came from the human delegation. Admiral Kang stepped forward again, addressing the terrified council members. Honorable delegates, this is exactly why humans are the way we are. This is why we prepare for war even during peacetime. This is why we carry weapons even when visiting friends. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of as many delegates as possible. We have seen this pattern before. Something evil approaches and peaceful people have no way to defend themselves, but this time will be different. This time you have guardians. The vote was unanimous. When the session ended, every species in the council had voted to not only accept humanity as members, but to request immediate military cooperation agreements. They wanted human soldiers stationed in their systems. They wanted human engineers building defenses on their worlds. They wanted human teachers training their people to fight. As delegates approached human representatives with new respect and desperate requests for protection, Rixchel realized something remarkable had happened. Humanity had just become the first species in galactic history that other species actually wanted to be heavily armed and ready for battle. The truth about humanity had not left the galaxy speechless. After all, it had given them something they had almost forgotten how to feel. Hope that when the darkness came there would be